Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the channel. Zach D Productions here, and I'm here for a list video for you guys. So for this list, I'll be going over just a few movies that I find to be kind of underrated. This is a video idea that I thought about doing for quite a bit now, so I thought it would be an interesting list video to make. So there's about 4 movies here that I do want to talk about. Now, you really could make the argument about whether or not a few of these movies are really underrated, because a lot of these movies are either sequels or prequels to movies that are already big. But I do think that these films, for what they are, they do go kind of overlooked in my opinion. So yeah, this list is in no particular order either, so let's go ahead and get started. First film I want to talk about here is The Amazing Spider-Man 2, of course with Andrew Garfield, the second one with Andrew Garfield. A lot of people kind of say that this is the worst Spider-Man film ever made, and while that is debatable, while yes, there is a possibility that that could be true, I still think it's a decent film. I don't think it's as bad as many fans say it is, I think. Yes, there's some really stupid moments in the film, especially, when basically the part when Electro becomes Electro, when, electricity fixes his teeth and everything. That was just really stupid, I think. And yeah, there's a lot of questionable moments, I guess you could say, in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but there are some memorable scenes in this movie. Obviously we can't forget about the ending where Gwen Stacy dies, and that's obviously one of the most emotional parts in any Spider-Man film, I think. But yeah, this movie, it's not as bad as a lot of people say it is. Yes, it's nowhere near the best Spider-Man film, but I don't think it's as bad as some people make it out to be, personally. Even though it still might be one of the worst Spider-Man films ever made. So the next film up is Back to the Future Part 2. Now, again, you can make a debate on whether or not this movie is really underrated. Like, really? Back to the Future 2 underrated? Are you sure? Because I do understand that, this entire trilogy is pretty much a classic. The whole trilogy is classic, of course. I've grown up with these films, and if I'm not mistaken, this was basically the first trilogy that I ever watched. And I think I would even go as far to say that Back to the Future is maybe the first movie I've ever seen, ever. Like, probably before I could even speak, basically. Yeah, I do remember this movie being a big part of my childhood, and, all three of them, really. And the second one does kind of go overlooked, and from what a lot of people have been saying, a lot of people say that this is the weakest one out of the 3. And I think anyone can pretty much agree that there is no bad Back to the Future film. There's never been a weak one. But obviously, you're going to have to, play favorites here. And obviously, some people are going to have their least favorites. And I've noticed that many people say that the second one is the worst one out of the trilogy. I personally don't know where people are coming from with that. For me personally, I think the third one is maybe the weakest. But even in saying that, I still think that's a good film. I mean, again, there's no bad Back to the Future film. They're all classics. But the second one, I think, is unique. I think it's maybe as far as its vibe and everything, maybe the darkest one out of the 3. And it's actually the only one where they visit the future. I mean, if you really think about it, it really is the only one, 2015, which isn't really 2015. It's just basically the 1980s with, semi-futuristic technology, That's basically what it is. I mean, it's a fun film. It is, I like the action in it, the comedy and everything. And yeah, I think it's kind of underrated, although that might be debatable for some. So yeah, either way, Back to the Future 2 is on this list. Alright, next up, we got Chronicle. Definitely one of the most underrated movies of all time, in my personal opinion. If you like found footage films and haven't seen this one, definitely check it out, because it really is a great film. I know some people don't like it because, the story is rather dark and everything, but I think that's, I think that's something that most people can look past, and, the story is kind of interesting, and, everything that it has to offer, I think it's pretty good. And I remember even after walking out of the theater of this movie, I remember thinking they're probably going to make a sequel because, you know, the one remaining survivor out of the 3 guys who got those powers stated that he would find out what happened to them. And obviously here we are like a decade later and still no sequel. But apparently one is in the works, so that is something worth keeping your eye out for, I think. But yeah, Chronicle, I think it's a really great movie and definitely underrated. I'm kind of surprised that this film isn't, you know, much more popular than it actually is. But I think from what most people have been saying, most people do like it at the same time. Very rarely will you see people say that this film wasn't great or anything, but yeah, still kind of underrated in my opinion. Okay, so the last movie here I want to mention is X-Men Origins Wolverine. A lot of people say that this movie was crap. You know, when I first saw the movie, I actually kind of liked it. I've pretty much always liked it. I never loved it, but I've always liked it, though. I think it's a really good film. I like the action in it. You know, of course, Hugh Jackman is Wolverine, and, you know, obviously he's just an iconic actor, especially as the Wolverine, and, yeah, I think it's pretty good. You know, lots of memorable scenes, especially, you know, when the barn gets blown up and everything, and, you know, he's taking down that helicopter, and, you know, that fight at the end with that variant of Deadpool or whatever, that was kind of cool as well. But yeah, definitely not as bad as some people make it out to be, so I think it's a good film. I do think it's a good film, even though, again, it's not, you know, the most amazing thing out there. I think it's a good film for what it is, and if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure there is an X-Men reboot or some kind of new X-Men movie in the works. I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure on that. But either way, X-Men Origins Wolverine, I think it's pretty good for what it is. So there you have it. That's a list of some movies that I find to be kind of underrated. Let me know what you guys think. What are some films that you find to be kind of underrated? Feel free to let me know. So on that note, thanks for watching. Have a nice day and take care.